Yay, this is my autistic special interest moment. I'm ready to shine. I have been charting my DNA journey since February, when I started getting a little bit more curious about the labels that Ancestry was using because it wasn't making any sense to me. This is going to be kind of a long video, but hopefully it will start within a conversation for all of us to start having about what are they hiding from us. The first thing that you have to understand about Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and pretty much all of the modern DNA tools, for the most part, use what we call admixture calculator. What is admixture? So an admixture calculator is a tool made by researchers that estimates your DNA by comparing your DNA to structured models of these different populations. The key word is models. These models are built by averaging DNA from chosen samples, either modern or ancient, and then assigning them labels like West African or Baltic based on where the samples came from or what the researchers decided to group together. So that is important to keep in mind as I talk about the rest of this stuff, because a lot of the labels that we're seeing on things like Ancestry are the researchers looking at genetic patterns and then based on our current labels, our current borders, our current understanding of nations and modern populations, giving it a label. So here are my Ancestry results, and you can see the map over there. And of course, it has 30% Nigeria, which is pretty common among most Black people in the United States. And then you can see kind of all these other labels that it gives me, mostly in Africa, although there are some, very random pieces throughout the world. Nigeria was 30%. Let's focus just on Nigeria. These are the ethnic groups that are associated in Nigeria. Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, Fulani. These are the most prominent. Assuming that I am 30% Nigerian, based on what Ancestry is telling me, I should easily find the actual populations or the tribes that I'm related to when I run those on Oracle. I've done many calculators, so I'm just going to pick one. You can see my admixture breakdown is this sub-Saharan African, which is a whole problematic category in and of itself, but we're not going to talk about that. But anyway, you can look at my single population matches. If I am Nigerian, I should have been matching the tribes that we just saw. Things like Yoruba, Igbo, Mende. Those are all very common and very common among Black Americans who have ties to Nigeria. But interesting enough, my first closest match is ASW 30, which is actually an African American reference group that was constructed in the Southwest. And I'm matching at a distance of 35. Okay. That's important. We're going to put a pin in that for right now. If you go down, we don't see the first Nigerian group is Yoruba at 57.13 as a genetic distance. Now I know you're saying, look, we saw all of these African populations on there. How are you saying you're not African? It doesn't matter what genetic distance says, but actually that is the smoking gun. That is the critical piece to all of it. For simplicity, just went into ChatGPT so that you could see what it means with genetic distances. So when you have single populations, this is the chart that you would be using, something around this. Now, this is researcher and I'm simplifying it quite a bit here, but essentially once you get up into over 8, no meaningful matches. You are genetically too far from any single population reference. Oracle is like failing. And then what it means practically, if your best single population match is over 5, it's not an actual match. If you have, a greater than 6, it means your true population isn't in the reference set. Very important to stop here and mention that I am labeled as a Black American born and raised in the United States, meaning that my group, African Americans, is supposedly a post-colonial admixture of European, West African, and to some degree, Native American DNA. Notice how in those single population matches, not only did I not match any Nigerian tribes that we know from the reference groups, I didn't match any of the common modern European or modern Native American tribes that are supposedly contributing to African American admixture. If my DNA is supposedly 30% Nigerian, there is actually single populations that have been modeled based on people who currently live in Nigeria. People get single population matches on Oracle all the time that are under 6. Why would I have no close match at all? Okay, let's keep going. At this point, I thought, okay, maybe it would be better to look at my admixture by chromosome to see what my DNA is actually mapping onto. Just for receipts, here are, and why heat maps might be a better idea than admixture is because Real ancient genomes are direct evidence. So as you can see, they match your actual DNA to real sequence DNA from people that have been excavated. So they're not like a model, or researchers aren't coming up with a way to define traits. That means when you're looking at a heat map analysis like this, they can say on, this chromosome 1, all matches, these colors are matching these individuals, right? That have been excavated. That's why there's these different category numbers. And what it's essentially saying when you have multiple hits is that my DNA is matching multiple remains that were excavated and cataloged in a similar area. So this is a little bit more confidence than a statistical model, because my DNA is matching several people in the same area. But here's the part that's the gotcha, where they're lying to all of us. This is my chromosome admixture. And as I've explained before, admixture is based on modeled populations. So as you can see here, some of these are groups that we've seen in my DNA multiple times, but very specifically, here's this West African group. And you can see how, according to the admixture, I have 53% of my DNA on chromosome 1 matching to West African, 47% on chromosome 2, at some points 64% on different chromosomes. When you come back to my heat map, remember the remains that have been taken from actual people that have lived. Which of these groups are in West Africa? You tell me. Is Sweden in West Africa? No. What about Croatia? Germany? I do not have one genome that is in Africa. But yet, according to my admixture, I'm supposed to have all of this West African DNA. I know people are going to say, maybe there's no West African genomes that have been mapped, and so you're just matching onto the closest genome. Well, that's not how that analysis works, but okay, let's pretend. List of actual confirmed West African genomes. So there are several. If my DNA is anywhere from 40% to 60% West African, it should be statistically impossible for me to have an entire map analysis of only Eurasian DNA and have zero of the mapped West African genome. Essentially, my DNA is showing that the out of Africa theory is just a theory. So many of us are walking around with a population that has either been erased or hidden, and they are hiding it by labeling us African, even though our actual DNA does not map onto any known African genome. More importantly, I think that it is supporting the idea that there were lots of us people that look like this on all aspects of this globe. Some of us migrated over to the Americas, and some of us migrated into Africa. And that is why you see DNA like mine in all these reference populations, but we don't actually match them.